No matter your age, 50, 60, or even 70, one truth remains constant. Either your money works for you or you work for money. Let that sink in. Now consider this. 7 out of 10 Americans at retirement age rely on Social Security as their primary source of income. That's not just a statistic. It's a warning. And it's a reality that could have been different if they had known what I'm about to share with you. Financial freedom isn't reserved for the young, the lucky, or the privileged. It's not magic. It's not mystery. It's a skill, a strategy, a discipline, but most importantly, it's a decision. In this video, I'm going to walk you through 7 proven principles that not only helped me weather financial storms, but gave me something far more valuable than money: control, peace, and personal power. These strategies work regardless of your age or where you're starting from. And the best part? At the end, I'll help you create your own practical, personalized financial plan for the week. Real steps, real clarity, real change. But before we dive into all that, I want you to reflect on one powerful question. Do you control your money, or does it control you? When I was young, I believed the key to life was finding a stable job, one with benefits, a pension, and maybe someday a comfortable retirement. Sound familiar? Many of us followed that path. 40 years of work, 40 hours a week, only to retire on 40% of what was barely enough to begin with. All in the hope of peace in our later years. But at 25, I learned a truth that changed everything. It's not how much you earn, it's what you do with it. I still remember my first conversation with Earl Schoaf, my mentor. He looked at my financial situation, broke, in debt, no plan, and asked me one simple question. "Jim, have you ever saved even 10 cents out of every dollar?" I told him, "No, Earl, I haven't." And he smiled and said, "That's where we'll start." That was the first principle. Learn to manage a little if you ever want to have more. I was 25. I had nothing. But once I began learning financial principles, not from headlines but from timeless philosophy, everything began to change. Not overnight, but gradually through habits, through mindset, through choices. Because wealth isn't an accident. It's built. Most people believe financial well-being is about earning more. If only I made more money, they say. But that's not the answer. True financial well-being is about decisions, discipline, and long-term thinking. You can earn $1 million and lose it in a year, or earn modestly and build a legacy. I've met people with average incomes and total freedom. Why? Because they lived below their means. They invested in knowledge. They delayed gratification, and they built their lives brick by brick. You can do the same, because it doesn't matter how old you are. It matters what you choose to do today. He looked at me and said, "It's too late to start." And I replied with a question. When's the best time to plant a tree? 20 years ago. And the second best time? Today. Because today is always a new beginning. It's a chance. A moment of truth. And if you take ownership of your financial life now, you can transform more than just your bank account. You can change your inner world. From fear to confidence. From scarcity to abundance. From confusion to wisdom. The 7 strategies we're about to explore next, they're not theories from a textbook. They're lived truths, drawn from my own journey and from the lives of thousands who made a decision to change. Each strategy begins with a powerful question. Are you the master of your money, or just a guest in your own bank account? Remember, money is a servant, a powerful one, but it's a dangerous master. Manage it wisely, and it will serve you for life. Neglect it, and you'll serve it day by day, paycheck by paycheck. And that's not the life you were meant for. Right now, grab a notebook or open your notes. This isn't just about financial theory. This is about action, your personal strategy. By the end of this video, you'll walk away with a plan. Something real. Something you can begin today. Let's begin with strategy 1. 1. Live on 70% of your income. My mentor once told me, learn to live on 70%, not 100%, and definitely not 110% like most people do. This was my starting point. And at the time, I was earning very little. I thought, how can I possibly save anything when I'm barely making it as is? And Earl said something that shook me. If you can't live on 90%, you won't be able to live on 1000% either. That was the moment I realized. Financial freedom isn't about math. It's about self-discipline. When you divide your income like this, 70% for living expenses, 10% for personal growth, books, courses, skills, 10% for investments, money that works for you, 10% for giving because generosity opens the door to receiving. You don't just create financial order. You restore self-respect. You stop living like a consumer and start thinking like a builder. You lay a foundation. This is more than budgeting. It's a philosophy, a way of life. 2. Save and grow. Don't just stash money under the mattress. Grow it. If your money isn't working, it's not money. It's just paper. What matters isn't how much you save. What matters is how disciplined you are about saving. Discipline is the bridge between goals and results. I remember once missing a small bill payment. It wasn't the amount that shook me. It was the feeling of being out of control. That day, I made a decision. From now on, I manage money. Money doesn't manage me. So I began saving immediately, automatically, not with leftovers but first. Because when saving is automatic, it becomes non-negotiable. Like brushing your teeth, no debate, no delay. 3. Study money like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. School didn't teach us about compound interest, or that a credit card is not free money, or that the real enemy of financial freedom isn't a low income, it's low awareness. But the good news? You can learn. At any age. Whether you're 50, 60, or even 80, if you're willing to grow, it's not too late. I began to learn. Not to become a financial expert, but to stop being a financial victim. I read everything I could find. About money. About investing. About taxes, insurance, and how wealthy people think. And I recommend the same for you. Not a degree. Not a deep dive. Just one financial insight per week. One term. One principle. One shift in mindset. Because it's not complexity that changes lives. It's consistency. As my mentor once told me, the worst condition isn't poverty. It's financial helplessness. That's where the true power lies. When you take responsibility for your financial reality, things begin to change. Internally first, then externally. Your decisions get sharper. Your spending becomes wiser. Your opportunities grow. Why? Because you stop reacting and you start leading. Ask yourself this. If every dollar you earned was a worker, would you hire it? Or would you let it slack off, get wasted, or disappear into impulse buys and mindless entertainment? Money is like an army. It's either disciplined or it rebels. And you are the commander-in-chief. So, the first 3 strategies may seem simple, but they're foundational. Live on less than you earn. Save and grow what you keep. Learn something new about money every single week. That's the beginning of freedom. And freedom begins with action. Today. Not after the next pension recalculation. Today. Grab a pen and write this down. What is your monthly income? What is 70% of that? What is 10%? Then start. Because without action, there is no result. And as I always say, it's better to start small than not to start at all. 4. Plan your money before it leaves you. This one is a game changer. I still remember when I finally learned to plan my finances. Not with some complicated, color-coded spreadsheet, but with a simple list. Just this: income, expenses, what's left, and most importantly, a purpose. Because if you don't tell your money where to go, it will find its own way to disappear. Financial freedom doesn't begin with an inheritance or a lucky break. It begins with a notebook, a pen, and a decision. I'm in charge now. You might ask, what if my income is unstable? The answer? Still plan. Especially then. An unstable income isn't an excuse. It's a call to be even more intentional. Create a minimal projection. Define your survival baseline. And as extra income comes in, don't react. Redirect it. Invest it. Make it work. Because every dollar that goes unplanned falls victim to emotion. Think about it. How many times have you made a spontaneous purchase and regretted it? That wasn't a financial decision. That was an emotional one. But when you plan ahead, you act with purpose, not pressure. That's not just budgeting. That's financial maturity. 5. Create assets, not just savings. This one is close to my heart. Because money by itself doesn't create freedom. It only becomes powerful when it turns into something that works without you. I've said this for years. Don't work just for money. Make money work for you. And here's where many people fall into a trap. They say, "But I'm not an investor. I don't have enough." But listen closely. An asset isn't always a rental property or a stock portfolio. It can be anything that produces value independently of your time. Skills, side businesses, tools, digital products, royalties, even relationships and networks, stocks or real estate. Sure, those can be assets, but don't limit the definition. An asset is anything that brings value or income over time. A skill? That's an asset. A small business? An asset. Even a well-written book, read for years, that's an asset. I started with books, turned them into knowledge, knowledge into ideas, ideas into products. Then I taught others. Teaching became workshops. Workshops created income. Income became capital, and capital became more assets. That is the cycle of power. And it doesn't require a fortune to begin. It requires a decision. One step and you're in the game. So ask yourself, what skill do you already have that could generate income? What do you know that others would pay to learn? What do you own that could be used more intentionally? At an older age, you have a hidden advantage, experience. If you structure it, it becomes an asset. One of my favorite quotes says, "Rich people look for opportunities. Poor people look for excuses." And I know that might sound harsh, but it's true. While one person says, "I'm too old to start a business," another opens an online store from home. While one tucks away $50 and forgets it, another invests it in a book that reshapes their mindset and earns thousands. The difference isn't age. It's mindset. And don't be afraid to lose. The greatest fear people have around money is often the fear of risk. But the greatest risk isn't failure, it's doing nothing. Inflation quietly erodes your savings. Life gets more expensive. If you're not growing, you're already falling behind. So smart risk? That's not danger. That's the price of progress. Now let's recap. We're not just saving, we're strategizing. We're not just cutting expenses, we're creating assets. We're not waiting for miracles. We're building our foundation. This is the path to stability. Not fantasy, not luck. Strategy, ownership, discipline. Look at your life. Right now, what do you already have that could become an asset? A spare room? Income? Time and expertise? You could teach. A lifetime of lessons? You could write, coach, mentor. Don't limit yourself to tradition. Wealth is creativity, and it answers a constant question. How can I turn my time, knowledge, and energy into value? Because in the end, it's not about how much you have. It's about what you do with it. 6. Keep personal financial records. This one changed everything for me. Let me say it plainly. If you don't track your finances, you're not in control of your life. I used to feel like I was fine. As long as I could afford a coffee, things seemed okay. But that's not a financial plan, that's a blind reaction. One day, my mentor asked me, "Jim, how much did you spend on food last month?" I shrugged. "I don't know, and not much." He smiled and said, "Show me the numbers." And that's when it hit me. I think means I don't know. And I don't know means I'm not in control. From that day forward, I wrote everything down. At first in a notebook, then cards. Later, a simple spreadsheet. And you know what changed? Not the money. Me. I saw the blind spots, the small, unconscious leaks in my spending. I saw what I really earned, where it really went, and what actually mattered. From control came clarity. From clarity came peace. Tracking is financial consciousness. It's a mirror, one that doesn't lie. And while you may not always enjoy the reflection, That truth makes you stronger. So here's your next action step. Grab a notebook or open a file. Write down what came in this month, what went out, where, and what that tells you about your habits. Because money never lies. It reveals what you truly value. You might say personal growth is important, but if your tracking shows $0 on books and $300 on coffee shops, then your real values are showing. That's why tracking isn't just about money. It's about self-awareness. 7. Think in terms of legacy. And this is the deepest of all. Stop asking only, how much will I earn? Start asking, what will I leave behind? Financial well-being isn't just about a comfortable retirement. It's about the mark you leave, the money culture your children inherit, the spending habits, investing principles, and philosophy your grandchildren observe. And here's the truth. You don't need to leave behind a fortune to leave behind a system. If your kids grow up watching you, avoid debt, invest in knowledge, live below your means, think strategically, then they've already inherited something far more valuable than a bank account. I once heard a story of a farmer. He didn't have a vast estate, but he left behind records, journals, decades of harvests, profits, plans. When his children saw those journals, they saw more than numbers. They saw that their father wasn't just a laborer. He was a thinker, a builder, an entrepreneur, and that legacy changed their lives. So ask yourself, what am I building that will outlive me? Because success isn't just what you accumulate. It's what you inspire. It's the example you leave long after you're gone. Take a moment. Look at your answers. These numbers tell a story. Not just about your finances, but about your habits, beliefs, and mindset. Maybe you see strengths, areas where you're in control. Celebrate them. Double down on them. Maybe you see gaps. That's not failure. That's direction. Those numbers show you exactly where your next step lies. And now comes the most important part. Make a decision. Not next week. Not after the next payday. Now, decide one area you will work on this month. Just one. And give it your full focus. Learn, track, improve. Because progress is built brick by brick, not all at once. Let me leave you with this. You don't have to be rich to build wealth. You don't need to be a financial expert to be financially free. But you do need to be responsible. You do need to be intentional. And most of all, you need to believe that change is possible, because it is. True wealth is becoming the kind of person who controls their money instead of being controlled by it, builds instead of just survives, thinks in decades, not just paychecks, leaves behind a philosophy, not just possessions. Start now. Small steps, consistent action. And soon, your finances will no longer be a source of stress. They'll be a source of strength. Now take a moment and look at your self-assessment. Which area scored the lowest? That's not your weakness. That's your greatest opportunity. Because when you improve that one area, it often creates momentum for everything else, like fixing a jammed gear in a machine. Once it turns, the entire system begins to move. So here's your next step. Pick that one area and build a simple, practical action plan around it. If your challenge is tracking expenses, commit to writing down everything you spend, just for 1 week. If it's investing in yourself, choose one book and dedicate 20 minutes a day to reading. If it's saving, automate a 10% transfer from every income source. Start with whatever amount you can. If it's financial communication, schedule an honest, calm conversation with someone you trust. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Create it, and keep it simple. I suggest you write down 3 small actions you can take daily or a few times a week. They should be clear and doable. Could be, check your account balance every morning. Transfer $5 into savings before bed. Review your goals every Sunday evening. Because the secret is consistency. Small disciplines, repeated over time, create massive results. After a week, come back to that self-assessment. Ask yourself, has the score improved? What became easier? Where did confidence begin to grow? Because each time you complete a cycle of action, you get stronger. You move one step closer, not just to financial freedom, but to self-mastery. And here's what I want you to remember. There's no such thing as failure here. There's only movement or pause. If you're moving even slowly, you've already won. So now we come to the end of this journey together. 7 strategies. 7 decisions that can shift your life. Not someday, not next year, but starting now. Because success isn't a number. It's not luck. And it's not an event. It's a mindset. It's a rhythm. It's the result of daily actions driven by intention. When you begin to think long-term, act with discipline, and live with responsibility, you're not just managing money, you're building a life. And as I've always said, you can't change the past, but you can always change the path ahead. You can begin from any point at any age with any background. All it takes is a decision. So if this message helped you, if even one idea sparked something in you, share it. Click like, leave a comment. It might seem small, but it means we're heading in the right direction. And if you haven't subscribed yet, do it. Not just for content, but because this is a space where you'll find tools, support, and a mindset for growth. I'd love to hear from you. Which of the 7 strategies resonated most with you? What's the one change you'll make this week? Your words might just be the spark someone else needs. Because as you now understand, knowledge becomes powerful through action. And action becomes transformative through community. The world is changing. The economy is changing. But the principles that build a good life remain constant. Discipline, wisdom, responsibility. And if you cultivate those qualities, you can shape any financial future you desire. I believe that, and I believe in you. Remember, you are the architect. Your thoughts are the blueprint. Your actions are the tools. Your life is the project. And each day is a chance to lay down another solid brick. So be bold. Be consistent. Be the kind of person who doesn't just survive, but leads with purpose, with clarity, and with quiet confidence. We've done good work today, but the real victories, they begin now. I'll see you in the next video.